Welcome to the show, everyone, and happy networking. People say happy Friday, happy this. I'm saying happy networking to everybody out there. We're live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We're going to be sharing the show afterwards. I'm going to go right in with my first guest, who is Stephanie Maloney, and she is one of the owners of Premier Estate Planning. Welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. And if it's okay with you, I got to tell them what we were talking about a little bit before the show, because it actually goes hand in hand, because our pets are like our kids too. Welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So, Stephanie Maloney with Premier Estate Planning. We're a local firm here in the Valley since '95, and it's a small family business. We are able to prepare documents for all over the country as long as people are here to sign them. Or we can do a legal Zoom type of a document for someone if they care for it. But we work all over the state as well, doing virtual, in-person, and phone consultations to get people educated about what they need. And we operate as a document preparer firm and not a law firm.
Right. And why is it so that people don't necessarily have to have, you know, an attorney do these kinds of things?
Well, we're fortunate here in Arizona. They have a great program called the Arizona Certified Legal Document Program. California has a mild version of it as well, and it allows the public to get lots of different documents prepared without having to hire an attorney. Some situations just don't require it, and then the client doesn't need to spend the money hiring the attorney. So it just allows the public to get these types of services. We focus strictly on estate planning. We don't do anything else, but it allows people to get things done at a more affordable price, and I think in a more comfortable environment too.
Right, right. Before the show, we were talking about pets, and
Yes.
I was talking about my deal in particular. And just as we went on, you had mentioned that you even had people sometimes leave even money for the pet, for the family, because it's expensive.
Yeah, they want, you know, people's pets are very important to them, if they have children or if they don't. Sometimes those are their kids. And they probably, 1 out of every 20 trusts we do has some kind of language in it dealing with their animals and the care for them if they're not here. Because, you know, and a lot of people here have large animals. It's one thing to ask.
I'm surprised they don't have the same kind of issues for pets as they do for people. I mean, they probably will sooner or later.
Well, you know, you can't just give a horse to someone. I mean, it's a big animal. It's versus, you know, like a cat or a dog. That's an easier placement to make if somebody can't take that animal on. But a horse is expensive and, you know, requires just
some dogs, though, are bigger.
Yeah. And people will usually leave a little money depending on the animal. If it's a horse, of course, there's a lot more expense to that care for that animal and potential visits to the vets and things. But, you know, for cats and dogs, they'll leave smaller increments to the people that they're planning to leave their animals to if they predecease.
So possibly even having a provision there in your estate planning for the pet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your pet. You know, I know my mother, it was her dog. Even though it was our family dog, that dog was her dog.
Yeah.
You know, so now when you help people, you do help people statewide, but nationwide if you could, if you have to too, right?
Yes, absolutely. We get a lot of referrals from local clients to their extended family all over the country.
What I love about you is that what you do is something different than other people, and that is that succession education that you do for people. I don't know if I said it right, but
successor education is what we call it. But
it's awesome.
It's essentially, you know, we realized years ago we lost touch with a couple of clients and then learned they had been taken advantage of a little bit through the process after losing their spouse. And the cost that they incurred going to see somebody to get some help was ridiculous. And if I had done we did education for them. But of course, when you lose a spouse, you're not always thinking. You know, the first year for most people can be just a total fog. You're just going through and doing the things you need to do. And I decided I needed to do successor education for my clients and for their people, because none of us, for the most part, have settled more than one estate or had a loved one become incapacitated and then have to do the work that comes with that job. And if you don't know what documents were put in place, how they work, and what problems are avoided, you can end up in the same position unnecessarily.
Now, you do free consultations with people. You please check out her website, especially those people who are the single mother, the women out there, your older people. Oh my gosh, these are things that you need to listen up to the information that you hear here. I mean, that's really important to me. I think that we all need to. If it's not you, maybe tell them somebody about this. They do free consultations. Their website is premieraz.net. You can call them at 602-371-8898. So important for everyone to make this conversation a better, an easier conversation.
I say it's better to have a conversation before the house is on fire, before there's a real problem. Because when people, a lot of people, I think they avoid doing estate planning because, one, listen to the word. It sounds very grand.
We've talked about that.
And so they're like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I live in an apartment. I don't have an estate. But estate planning is really, it's all about this. It's relieving liability from financial institutions and medical professionals for listening to someone else on our behalf. Because if these documents are being used, you're not able to make decisions.
I'm going to tell a story about somebody who I know in California, who she didn't have any family left. Whatever had happened, certain things, and they do. Unfortunately, bad things happen. This woman committed suicide, and she ended up leaving everything. Thankfully, she did do. This is why I'm saying that she happened to have estate planning. She lived in an apartment. She didn't have any family left. Whatever happened with her son, I think he might have passed or what have you. She wasn't married anymore, and so here she was, this single woman who committed suicide, but left everything to her best friend, because her best friend was her family.
Yeah.
See? So listen up. I don't know about you all out there, but there's a lot of us out there like me. I'm one of them who's single. I don't know that I'm ever going to have that person in my life again or whatever, but I too, I'm alone. I don't have that. I'm not sitting there saying that I have to live in an estate. I'm telling you, you don't have to.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. I think we all really need to have our wishes. It's what we want, right?
Absolutely. And, think about the young professional that's just getting started. They're just graduated from college. They're 24, 25 years old. They're in their career. They're using a 401k at their new employer. And guess what? If something happens to your son or daughter who's that age, starting out in their career, and they're incapacitated now, as the parent, unless they had documents in place, healthcare powers of attorney and financial, as the parent, you can't touch their money to use it for their care or to control it or make medical decisions for them.
It makes it more expensive for you because you had to having to go through.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier. People will also avoid doing this because of the cost. It's not inexpensive. My costs are less than a traditional path, I would say, but they're still not inexpensive. But the cost to do things after the problem has arisen are 5 to 10 times more expensive. So
and it ends up that you end up with everything that you were thinking that you were giving is going to get eaten up by somebody else, right?
That's it. And I talk to parents all the time that have those young adult children, and it doesn't matter if your young adult is 32 now and they're still not in a relationship. They're probably still looking to their parents, maybe a sibling at this point, to make those decisions for them. And if they don't have permission, they're not going to be able to without going through that legal process to get permission.
It doesn't matter. It matters that we take care of ourselves.
Yep.
And it's something that I think as adults, it should be really mandatory, but it's not. Nothing is mandatory in this country that we lived in, right? But unfortunately, it ends up being terrible at the end, and you won't really know because you may not be alive. But guess what? If you only knew, right?
Oh yeah, we've lost a couple of friends already, my husband and I know if they could come back, they would do all of this to keep their families out of what they've been dealing with.
So would have my dad too.
Yeah.
Now the number to call them direct at 602-371-8898. Check them out. They do free consultations. premieraz.net. So we're going to keep on talking because we are going to continue here. So, do you like that? Yeah, very nice. Just easy. So, for you, with people who, when you work, we talked a little bit about the importance of having the durable power of attorney. is there something here that we're not, guardian nomination for adults, what is that?
That's a power of attorney as
the
well.
same thing.
It's a
Okay.
healthcare power of attorney and the nomination of guardian. They're two separate documents here in Arizona.
Okay. And for you, obviously, the most important piece of paper is this one that you have said before. Is that correct?
I mean,
Or what else?
everyone needs a power of attorney. You know, the 18-year-old that has nothing, I mean, they're still in high school, they have an accident and are incapacitated. As the parent, you can't make a decision for them.
Right.
And when I sit with people, that is like, they're like, I had no, I mean, everybody just assumes they would be able to do that. Or
Right.
for a spouse.
Right.
We've been married for 40 years. What do you mean I can't turn the plug off?
Right.
Well, he's his own person that needs to make his decisions, and he didn't leave anything behind, so you have to go get permission from the courts.
Right. And
You
that
know.
entails time,
Absolutely.
right? And especially right now. Is
Oh,
there
yeah.
anything that you wanted to talk about that I should know?
Perhaps, you know, just the difference between a will and a trust.
Mhm.
I think that's important to hit
Okay.
on, because so many young people really think, you know, once they have children, they often know they need to do some documents.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
we've all
It
heard
just
about
comes-
wills, right?
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, I need to do that. But they think that's enough, and it's really not enough. So there again, you know, you're the young family. When Mike and I were young, we lived in an apartment with our kids. We didn't have a house yet, really anything. But we needed to have these documents, because how are our kids going to be cared for? How are they going to receive the life insurance that we have for them? You know, they're too young. So
Right. And I also think that I don't know how you work with the life insurance, if you help people with that at
Mhm.
all, because I think that's also very important.
yeah.
And we talked about that.
Well,
You
and
remember I took
sometimes
the
people, I find people will, like on their 401ks, they'll have their spouse as their first person, as you should, and then they'll list their kids as contingent beneficiaries. Well, they can't inherit unless they're 18,
Mhm.
you know, but people don't know that, and the institutions don't care. They're just like, just
Right.
complete this form and turn it in.
Right. Here we go.
That won't be their problem to
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. What happens is that we all think that we're going to live forever. You know, we just don't want to talk about.
We're
this
always kicking
one
the can
thing.
down the road.
Eh.
Getting a sore toe.
What?
Getting a sore toe from kicking the can down the road.
Oh yeah, but you know that's the thing though. I mean, I myself, and I've been doing this a long time, and there's other people I've in the years that I've done that, and every time I turn around and I think, oh my God, I wonder if I have that. And we need to talk about that
Mhm.
too, because there's things that even if you've done it, it's not really over
Yeah,
till
you need
it's
to-
over.
You need, yeah, that's right.
It's really
It's
not.
true. So you can't make
Here we
another
go.
change. You need to look at it occasionally.
So welcome back, everyone. We are talking with Stephanie Maloney, and she's the owner of Premier Estate Planning. And you know, it's interesting because at the break, you can laugh at some of this stuff, but because I said, you know, every time I hear her talk, or there's something that I hear that you say that I wonder, okay, do I have that in mind? Because I said it's really not over until it's over, because you know you can have them. You do second opinions all
Yes.
the time. So important that you take them out and have them looked at periodically. Not, I wouldn't wait too long, because
Yeah, just-
laws changed, your life changes. Go ahead.
Yeah, things change, and you know, I've had clients that realized all their people and their documents aren't even in their life anymore as far as decision makers for them. You know, they did them when their kids were young. Now it's 20 years later, and they're like, we haven't talked to those people for 10 years, but they had them named in their documents. Or
Mhm.
so I say that's getting dust on your documents. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you need to wipe them off and go, okay, let's just look at this.
Yeah, just look at it and have them do a consultation for you. It's free to do, and you'll find out. And peace of mind every time you do anything. You know, it's just like when we were talking. I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about cleaning out the closet. You know, and just organizing your underwear drawer seriously makes you feel better,
does.
right? And
It
it's
does.
sort of the same kind of thing. To
Mhm.
know that you've got things in order. You know, it's so important, and it's such a good feeling. Now, you do free consultations. You work nationwide. You do this successor education, which you specialize in. Which, again, I love that, because I don't know anyone that does that, where you actually follow them even afterwards.
Yeah, I haven't met anybody yet, but
That does that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is so important, because again, you have these things in place, but who walks the line with you all the way but Stephanie?
well, and who knows, you know, it's one thing, a lot of people I work with my age just turned 49. If I'm talking to them, I'm going to ask them about their parents, because maybe I'm going to get another opportunity to work with them,
Mhm.
but I'm learning if they have documents too. And a lot of times I get this, we don't know, We don't talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're one of two children, maybe your only child, most people pick their kids to be their people. So if you don't know if mom and dad have documents, what good are they going to do? What if you can't find them? You know, I mean, it does. I just had a situation 2 weeks ago with a lady who her friend asked her to be her person. She said sure. She didn't hear anything about it. And 2 weeks ago now, she got a phone call. He had been in the hospital for 2 weeks. His dog was in his house for 2 weeks, locked up, and fortunately a big dog so he could drink out of the toilet. But he never showed her the documents, and then when she found the documents, he never had them notarized. He did it himself. So he was making an attempt, but it would have been so much better if she would have been part of it, or at least seen them, known about them. She didn't know how to get into his house. You know, they had never had those conversations. So he went as far as to say, hey, I want you to be my person, and she's like, okay. And kind of waiting for him to come back and go, okay, here's the stuff, and he never did.
And guess what? Now it hits the fan, and it's really not good.
Well, and he's incapacitated now. I mean, this man, he fell at work and fractured his skull.
Oh, wow.
He's probably never going to be the same person again. I mean, so she's been running around basically having to do what he should have done right. She had to go through a living probate, a guardianship, conservatorship, because I said none of his documents were signed.
You know, I'm just saying this to everybody out there. I can't tell you how important it is just to give a conversation. That's all it is to find out where you stand. And even if you have them done, just to go, oh, well, I have mine done. Make me take a look at them and have them look at it, do a second set of eyes on them, because sometimes things change. There are new rules sometimes, especially now with COVID.
Yep.
We've had so much happen and so many changes. Please call them, just have that conversation, and we'll go from there.
Well, I promise you it won't be as bad as you think. Like, I mean, so many people are just really, they're nervous about it. I think, you know, like I said, the cost, intimidating, because they don't understand the subject matter. And so many of us, we don't want to seem like we're dumb or I don't understand something. It's your first time coming to the table. Just relax. There's nothing to prepare for. Just listen, get educated, and then you'll have questions that'll just normally come from the conversation.
Right.
And you'll realize, yeah, okay, this isn't as big a deal as I thought, as meaning like I don't have to do a ton of work. People, for some reason, they feel like there's a lot of preparation involved in getting their documents
No, but
completed.
that's where you come in. You do you do that.
And the big consideration for most people is when I can't run my show anymore, I'm incapacitated or I'm gone. Who's the first person that's going to step in for me? And I want at least one more person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're married, your spouse is your first assumed person. And then I still want 2 more people. And that way you have a little protection if you lose one of your people or something happens, they don't want to serve, whatever it is. And then what do you need for those people? Contact information, same as I need for the person creating their documents. And then where do you want your things to go? And how do you want them to go when you're gone? That's really it.
Right. I think, and the other thing that's important too, God forbid something happens to you, that you want to make sure that you are laid to rest the way you want to be laid to rest, all that kind of stuff, what you want in place for yourself. It's honestly really for you and for them at the same time, right?
Yep. And when I work with families that have kids under 25 that aren't in committed relationships, I do powers of attorney for their children, because if something happens to their kids, mom and dad are going to be the ones having to go hire an attorney to take their affairs through the guardianship and conservatorship process, and they're going to be the ones paying for it. So I just do that for them. And I tell everybody, it's so much better to have the conversation before there's a problem. You don't want to be standing over your 24-year-old at the hospital and being told horrible news, and now you as the parent have to decide, am I going to donate organs? Do they want to be cremated or buried? I mean, they're not fun conversations to have, but the decisions are so much easier to make when you've had them, and at least you know this is how they felt.
Absolutely. That phone number to call is 602-371-8898. It's a free consultation, premieraz.net. The successor education that she does is just wonderful. Okay, I want to go back over here. Single really that we wanted to talk about was the will, what the difference between a will and a trust is.
A lot of people I have just come to learn doing education, they feel like a will accomplishes what a trust actually accomplishes. And when you think about movies and TV, trusts seem like they're for wealthy people, and wills are very common, and you hear about those more often. But if you're a young family that has minor children under 18 and something happens to the parents, your children can't directly receive those proceeds from hopefully life insurance that you have. They can't receive it because they're not old enough to contract. So it ends up in a guardianship and conservatorship process with the person that you nominated to be their guardian. They get appointed, and now they're working with the courts through this process to use those dollars for the child's care. And when they turn 18, they get whatever's there for them. Most parents would agree that's not a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to have a will than nothing, because at least you're saying, this is who I would like to be the guardian of my children. But it's not enough for the dollars for their care. You really need to go the step further and have the revocable trust put in place.
Okay, so again, a revocable trust is different than just a regular trust.
No, it just means there's either irrevocable or revocable.
Okay.
Most are revocable, meaning that you can change them
Change it.
through
That's
your
important
life.
because there are changes that might be made.
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more thing. When people choose to use a will, you're going through the process of probate.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's basically your ticket. And a lot of people are shocked when I tell them that too, because they're like, well, you know, mom died and we didn't go through probate with her, but she's still here. Usually you only go through probate at the second death because
Mm-hmm.
things are contractually held between married people. So everything went to the survivor at the first death. It's when the second person passes away that now usually we're going to be going through probate.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people just have misinformation. And yes, it's less expensive to do a will and powers of attorney initially. The costs come in later when you have to hire the attorney and you go through the formal probate.
So we only have a couple more minutes.
Mhm.
So what again, that's a huge thing for people to realize that they almost need both no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, when you do a revocable trust, you still have a will. It's kind of a safety net to catch things that were left out.
Mm-hmm.
Name your guardians for your kids.
Right. So final words for everybody there that you would want to talk about just for about a minute or so.
Well, it's the Marine Corps birthday today, and
Yes,
Veterans
it is.
Day is
And my
tomorrow.
dad was in my dad was in the Navy. Never
My
mind.
dad's 28-year
But
veteran
thank you
of
for
the Marine
everybody
Corps.
that's in service.
I wanted to offer a 20% discount for any veterans that call in, remaining part of this week to our number, and let them know that you heard this on the Carol Blonder Show. And I always give pricing, and then, it's going to be 20% off of their fee.
The phone number to call them at 602-371-8898. Veterans discount of 20% off. So for you or someone that you know, let them know this. So important that we all take care of it. That's the main thing, is that, have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Call her and just have the conversation, find out where you stand with what you have. You might even already have papers done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, because you want to make sure. I don't know if I've said this before, but documents are not documents unless they work.
Yeah, it's one way to say it.
But it's sort of true,
I
right?
meet people all the time that have documents. If you don't have them on file at particular places, they don't have to always be accepted. I mean, there's a lot of things that are involved.
So please get them taken care of. Listen up to everyone that if you're a veteran, she's offering 20% off. Give her a call. Tell them that you heard it on Networking Arizona. That phone number is 602-371-8898. The website is premieraz.net.